Hi, friends. Welcome to Lotus in the Light. My name is Jennifer. Thanks for joining. If you found your way here, I believe it was divinely guided, as Spirit has something to say to me, something to say to you, and something to say just to the collective in general. Some energy that we will put out there together when we open our hearts and minds and allow Spirit to move within us. I invite you just to take a deep breath. Try to clear this space, open this space, right? Bring your attention down here to your heart. We're just going to allow Spirit to speak. I wanted to record my last message I recently posted was a message that I recorded a few weeks ago, right after I finally made the decision to take the leap to leave my job, to leave my career. It was a difficult decision for me, and I recorded the video, but I held on to it until I had formally announced my resignation to my company, to my family, so on and so forth. And then I just recently posted it, but I just wanted to kind of go back and offer some perspective of what that journey looked like for me, as I feel like there might be some messages in that that might resonate for you. So I'm just going to try to be guided by my heart space, not my head space, and share what spirit is moving through me and motivating me to share about. So, um, I don't, if you haven't watched any of my past videos, I'll try to give you the brief summary that I've been in corporate America. I've been in and out of corporate America for over 25 years. I've felt called out and I've come back in each time, primarily for financial reasons, because my belief systems, my BS, um, had me held and captive in narratives that told me that that's what I needed to provide for myself. I was in a box. I could not see other or fathom other ways that I could be provided for, even though I see within nature and all around me ways that people are provided for outside of working in corporate America all the time. I see birds in the air and animals on the ground on the earth that are just provided for. They don't want for anything. They don't have to stay up late at night worrying about how they're going to find food for the next day or shelter for the next day, so on and so forth. Um, the provision is all around them, and generally they're guided to it by their own instincts, by their own intuition. Um, I was most of my career living in within my survival instincts. I was kind of married to my survival instincts, which most of us, those are baked into all of us biologically from, you know, caveman days, right? Where those survival instincts were the difference between life and death. And they guided you in the absence of the connection, your deeper inner connection. They guided you when you were when your ancestors were in a vibrational frequency that was very dense and very, um, um, dare I say, pinched off from the flow of spirit, from God's divine guidance. And so, as we continue to evolve, expand, and explore broader realities within our human experience, we have become more open to God, more open to our higher consciousness, and more open to that guidance. So this is the third time that I'm leaving corporate America, but it feels very different than the first two times. The first two times I had spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours probably in prayer, asking God, is this the path? Is this the right way for me? I knew deep in my heart that I did not belong in corporate America, that there's nothing wrong with that. That is a wonderful path for many, many, many people. But I knew deep down it was not the path for me. And that's why I kept feeling the draw out. However, each time I would submit to prayer, but I would never really surrender myself to hearing and understanding, because my prayer always happened in here in my thinking mind. And I was looking for answers in here in my thinking mind. But as we know, as whatever your faith background is, will tell you, God is here in your heart space. And so that's what I've been learning over the last 18 months. And so finally, for the first time, whereas in the past I struggled to hear from God about the matter, but I always had this path, this plan. It's like, okay, I figured out how I'm going to make this work, how I'm going to um, provide for myself, and so on and so forth. So very little spiritual clarity, but a nice plan and path forward that will help me prevent quote failure. I now no longer believe in the idea of failure. Everything is just experience that helps us learn and grow, and experience that helps us know refine ourselves, because it helps us understand what we do and don't want in our life. Um, and so I no longer think of those experiences as failures, but just steps in the journey. But the big difference this time is that I've freed my mind and my belief systems in a way that has allowed me to fully surrender. And so now I'm taking this step with I feel like all the spiritual clarity. I feel like every question I ask, I get an answer and I get perspective, but with no path. accept the very next step. So for me, that very next step was resigning from my job. And that was like the one shackle left in my life, the one thing left in my life that I felt like was holding me back from wherever spirit was guiding me. Every time, I've been on this 365-day joyride. I officially started it on February 1st, although I was practicing it in late 2025 as well. I was already kind of doing the steps. I just didn't make an official thing out of it. Every time I would want to follow my joy, there was only one thing ever usually standing in my way, and it was commitments to my job. And so that was pinching off, cutting off my joy, if you will. And so I knew, and I came to the full realization of it about 6 months ago in late September 25, that the next step for me was leaving. The next step in my joy ride journey was to leave my company. That was going to be the next big move that was going to really free me to experience joy in my life. But in that time, that was not my highest and best step to joy. And that's where you have to be really open and honest with yourself. When I thought about resigning from my job at that time, it put knots in my stomach. And the reason it put knots in my stomach is because I was still clinging to a belief system that my financial peace and security came through that job and or a job in corporate America. I could not see another way forward that afforded me the lifestyle that I wanted, that afforded me the comfort and peace of having my own home, that afforded me the comfort and joy of travel and experiencing life outside of my little cocoon here, right? The comfort and the joy that came with being able to give gifts that I like to give to my family and friends, things like that, right? I did not want to lose those things. And in the past, when I would leave corporate America, it came with this understanding that I had to give those things up, that those were sacrifices that I had to make. And now I no longer believe that, but I was still clinging to the last threads of this, like that security, that financial security comes from corporate America. And even though I had let go and I had expanded those ideas and I recognized that, hey, some people are just born into money. They're not working in corporate America. Some people win the lottery. Some people, uh, meet someone that comes into their life that has money that showers them with, whatever. Like it's not the money that I need, it's the freedom that I need. And I'm trusting and I can see around me, like I said, within nature, within other people in my life, that it doesn't have to come through this one way. That provision is there for us if we allow ourselves to see it and receive it. And so I have become more of an open vessel and so more surrendered to my divine path. I've become more of an open vessel and surrendered to the guidance, to God's guidance and God's provision, by releasing the need to control that, releasing the need to worry about that. And so I wasn't there yet 6 months ago. It was still a worry. It was still knots in my stomach. And I had to be honest with myself about that and say, okay, if I take the leap now, I'm going to come crashing down because I'm still going to be thinking about and worrying about how to provide for myself. And worry is just a coping mechanism, right? Worry is a coping mechanism that we are ingrained, again, we are biologically programmed for those survival instincts. And those survival instincts say that the known is safe. Even when the known is painful and unwanted and not your highest and best path, it's safe. I know this. And even though it doesn't make me happy, I know it's not going to hurt me. So I'm just going to stay here in this. And my staying in corporate America was exactly that. It was staying in the comfort of the known. And there's nothing to be judged about that. It's a choice. I can stay there as long as I want, as long as that makes me feel safe. There's no reason I have to leave, except that I'm here to experience. I'm here to expand. And so because of that, I was never going to feel I was never going to feel full joy in staying in that. So I was sacrificing joy for the feeling of safety, for the feeling of the known, right? And I allowed myself that, and recognizing that is the step to freedom from that. It's this, once you recognize that behavior, you are then in a position to free yourself from it and help you release the BS, the belief systems that are holding you back. And that's what I did, is I just gave myself the time and space to work through that and to remind myself that that's not true. This isn't the only way. I don't have to stay in corporate America. There is another way. And I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to have a plan like I felt like I did in the past. In fact, Spirit was very clear to me over the past 6 months. I'm not going to show you the whole path. You can't conceive of the whole path now. It will only hold you back. You're not ready. It's like Spirit's saying, I'm giving you a bite of the elephant. I'm not asking you to eat the whole elephant at once because that would be too overwhelming, right? So Spirit gives me these little nuggets, and when I honor them and allow myself to receive them, and I go with the flow, when I go with the flow and say, okay, this is where my joy is taking me. That's when I then received the joy, I received the blessings from that, and I received the next step as well. And so as I have allowed myself to do that, this step in particular was a big, big, big hurdle. And it took me many months to be able to think about resigning from my job and feel good about it and feel at peace about it and feel trust and knowing that I'm going to be taken care of no matter what. It took me, I've been a person of faith for decades. So hear me and understand that there's no shame in the fact that I couldn't take that step and in full faith until I really worked through a lot of stuff, despite my decades of being a person of faith. Okay. That's how deep this was. A lot of healing had to be done within me. Um, had to be um experienced within me, right? And I finally got there. I made that decision. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to resign from this role and start this next phase of my life. I had a trip planned to my company's headquarters. I was going to tell my boss then. The way I had some extreme anxiety arise the night before, and I had to pause. And I said, okay, again, recognizing that if I choose not to do this, it is a choice made in fear, which now I recognize is never for my highest and best good. And fear is never the path. Fear is never the emotion that God is going to use to guide you. Fear is the emotion that your thinking mind uses to guide you because it's been driven by your survival instincts for since the beginning of time. You were born into this world already with a survival instinct driving in the driver's seat of your mind. So fear is never the highest and best way. But I do have to honor that fear and thank that fear for showing me what could prevent me from fully surrendering to the flow. Because if I don't fully surrender to the flow, if I get in the water and I don't surrender to the flow and I decide to start paddling back, doggy paddling, trying to get back, trying to go this way. I need to go this way. I need to go this way because I don't trust what's down there because it's unknown, right? It's the unknown. Listen, the unknown is the birthplace of creation. It's the white backdrop. It's the empty space that allows you to create your highest and best. But if you are too afraid of it, you will sabotage it. So there's no sense in getting in that river and saying, I'm ready to go with the flow, to only exhaust myself trying to claw my way back to the known. Okay. And trying to claw my way back to control. And that's essentially what worry is. Worry is trying to exercise some control in the unknown so that you can find safety, find peace. But the real peace and the real safety actually comes in the surrender into the unknown. So the night before, I was going to do this, all this anxiety started coming up. But what I realized, and I allowed myself the space, I said, okay, I need to feel this. What am I feeling? I'm feeling afraid. All the same things for me. This could be different for you. If you were in this situation, it might not have anything to do with money. It might have to do with power or how you're perceived in the world because of your title or your position in corporate America or whatever. But for me, it was all about provision and being provided for and supported and having the things that I want and need in life. And so I allow myself the space to feel it again. I acknowledge this is coming from a place of fear. It's coming from something that I no longer believe. But am I ready to fully let go of that belief and fully embrace and integrate what I know to be true? And that is that God provides, that my higher self, my higher consciousness is leading me down the path of something even greater. In fact, a few weeks before, I had been like visualizing the future home that I want to have. And I heard Spirit say very clearly, the only thing standing between you and this home is your current job. And that was like the wake up call for me. That was like the moment that I said, it's time. Because I'm now acknowledging and hearing and recognizing that the very thing I was clinging to, that I thought was the only thing that was providing this life, excuse me, some truth is coming out. Um, um, my chakra here. Why can't I think of what I'm trying to say? My throat chakra is clearing and opening because I'm offering some truth here. The one thing that I was clinging to that I thought was keeping me in a lifestyle that was providing for me, it's actually the barrier. And Spirit's like, let that shit go. I've got something even better. And that was the moment. That was the light switch moment. That was the moment that I felt all the tension in the idea of leaving my job release. It was gone. And now here I am the night before, feeling it all again. But here's what happens. Everything is energy. And in the same way that, how do I want to say this? So when the energy knows, when you're not giving something attention, I'm going to use the word dies. Nothing dies. Energy doesn't die. But just for the understanding of what's happening. When you give something attention, it grows, which is why our world struggles with focusing so much on negative things and then getting frustrated that we're experiencing all these negative things because that's where we're putting our attention. Okay. But when you deny attention to something, and think about that. when you don't pay attention to someone's bad behavior, does that bad behavior continue? Generally, what might happen is it starts to get worse first because it recognizes, like, I'm not getting the attention I need to survive. So I've got to be louder and bigger and more in your face because I know I'm dying. And again, it's not dying. What happens is either that energy has to go away and go back to the universe and be used somewhere else because you're no longer a match for it, or we do have the power to transmute and heal the energy into something better. Okay, so that's what's happening that night before is all this energy is coming forth, all this energy, the ideas that were in my mind that were, you need this job and you need to be safe and this job is providing safety because it's known, right? All those narratives are bubbling up and screaming at me because they don't want to die. But what I had to say is, thank you. You have served me well. You have protected me for many, many years from things that I thought and believed I needed protecting from. So thank you for being there for me. But now I know better. And I'm going to offer you love, the energy. I'm saying this to the energy, right? I'm offering you love and showing you that there's a better, more enlightened way and allowing that love to transmute into something better. Or you can just simply say, I release you. I release you back to the universe. There's someone else out there that needs this energy for the next step in their journey. I do not. It's not for me. And you release that energy and let it go. It doesn't die, but it does get loud in the end. And that's what it was doing. So I finally was able to work through that. And I said, no, this is the right step for me. And what's really ironic is even though I did come to that conclusion, the next day comes and things got disrupted and I wasn't able to do it. And it's okay. And I knew there was a reason. So I went with the flow. I allowed it to happen when it was supposed to happen. It didn't happen that week. I went home. I'm back at my desk on Monday morning, immediately feeling the tension in my stomach because I'm still tethered to this thing that I do not want to be tethered to anymore. And that's when I said, no, I have to do it now. And so I immediately went in. I put time on my boss's schedule for the next day because he was pretty booked that day. And I did it the next day over Zoom, basically over Teams. Um, and the freedom that I felt when I did it was amazing. Actually, the freedom that I felt when I did it was amazing, but it was second to the freedom that I felt in that moment before when I decided it was time. I was ready. I was no longer afraid. So this idea that leaps of faith have to come shrouded in fear is silly. Allow yourself the space to work through the fears before you take the leap. Because listen, I was not just doing a trust fall with this. I was doing a trust fall off of a cliff. Okay. This one was a big one. And so you do not want to do that surrounded by an energy of fear because you're not going to fly in that moment. You're not the fear clips your wings. Okay. The fear holds you down in darkness. It tells you things that aren't true but it's trying to convince you because it's trying to protect you. So work through the fear. That's okay. And that's what I allowed myself to do. And now I have a few more weeks left. I committed to 4 weeks, basically full time. I have a few more weeks of those full-time weeks left before I'm fully free. But I do have some days where I feel it, where I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to be here." But I give it thanks for reminding me that I am on my highest and best path now, that this is temporary and I can do this for a minute. And in fact, this job has been nothing but opportunities for me to learn and grow over the past 2 years. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I have recognized that even before now, even before resignation, that this job has served me so, so greatly in helping me work through a lot of my old belief systems and allowed me to put to the test my new belief systems. And so for that, I am forever grateful. And it's that spirit of gratitude that has allowed me to now manifest this new and next great thing in my life. And so I have no idea the how. I don't have to know the how. In fact, within about 2 days of me resigning, Spirit did show me a next possible step. And this is the thing, the possibilities are infinite. There's not one way for me, there's not one highest and best path. There's many. And I get to choose. And two things were brought into my awareness 2 or 3 days after I resigned as possible paths forward, maybe even both of them as paths forward. So I will explore those. I haven't given them a ton of exploration yet, just because so much of my time and energy right now is still wrapped up in my current job. So I'm really looking forward to just spending time, more and more time meditating and just feeling the divine guidance and inspiration towards one of those things or another. And just, I might get even more opportunities presented to me. And now I know how to choose. It's following your highest and best, following your highest joy, whatever's bringing you your highest joy in that moment. And that might not ultimately even be the thing. It just might be a thing that leads you to the thing, right? Or a thing that leads you to a thing that leads you to a thing, but each time stepping you more and more into your higher joy. There's not one thing I'm striving to, right? I'm just striving to an experience in this life that's full of joy. And that is what I have started to allow myself to receive in a new and real way by being in a space of total surrender, being in a frequency a heart space and a mind space of total surrender. Okay, with that, let's see. Do we want to close with a card? Who has a word for us? Okay, let's do this one. Light, light in the darkness. I bought this recently, a couple months ago, and I haven't used it a ton, but it is a good one. Light in the darkness, an oracle of hope and transformation. That's where I'm at, right? I'm in um, this place of hope and transformation. Hang on, let me try to give this a little shuffle here. If I can. Okay, and then we'll just see what pops out. Oh, one's already popped out. This is interesting. Okay. A poisoned arrow. Now, I have not read this card or most of the cards in this deck, but it's a 26, which breaks down to an 8, which is all about infinite possibilities. And so, what I think is interesting here, sorry, I'm just looking at this for the first time, seeing what's standing out, is that there's these poisoned arrows that are in him, but around him, and it's really hard to see because this is mostly like a really dark colored card, but there's this purple I see like illuminating all around him, as though there's something there that can heal him from this poison arrow. And this poison arrow are just the ideas in our mind that hold us back and that truly poison our life. They truly hold us back from living the joy that we can live by holding us captive in these belief systems that do not serve us, but that we're afraid to shed. All right, so I'm going to read this. Okay, this could be a message for someone specific. Holding on to a grudge is more damaging for you than the person it's aimed at. For your own sake, it's time to release your bitterness over the past or present so you can start to heal and move forward with lightness and joy. I love this. So, sometimes we do hold a grudge, and not just against a person, but against experiences, against ideas. We place so much judgment. And in fact, this is one of the things that Spirit showed me after I resigned, is this idea of doing a judgment detox, creating a small group where we can work through some judgment detox, because judgment is the poison arrow in every aspect of our lives, in our relationships, in our career, in our ability to manifest abundance and joy and peace and hope. Judgment is the poisonous arrow. And we do not have to hold on to that. So the message here, and I believe that certainly for me, this was a big piece of what was holding me back in my life, because I was passing judgment on the idea that there was um, I was passing judgment on myself, on the idea that there was something else that I was capable of doing. I was passing judgment on the idea that there's something else that's as worthy to do as working in corporate America, right? So there's a lot of judgment that was holding me back, especially in those first two times that I left corporate America. So the message here is bitterness is a toxin that snakes through your body, slowly destroying you from the inside. And the worst part is that it's you who loosed the arrow that's piercing your heart and infecting your soul. The person responsible probably doesn't even know how you're feeling and isn't impacted. Instead, you're the one left seething with resentment, unable to escape the sting and move forward, and unwilling to deal with or heal the self-inflicted injury. Again, this is framing it as though it's a feeling towards a person, but it doesn't have to, and that person is likely you, but it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a situation as well. You're allowed to feel angry with a person or situation. Okay, thank you, Spirit. You're allowed to feel angry with a person or a situation or yourself, but either use it to fuel action that will bring about a resolution, or find a way to release it. That's what we've been talking about. Thank you, Spirit. I love the confirmation here. Find a way to release it. If you stubbornly hold on to your rage, repressing your emotions and stewing in silent resentment, it will fester, poison your heart, and affect your physical and mental health. This doesn't mean your feelings aren't justified. Bitterness grows out of hurt and betrayal from an injustice, real or perceived, and it's not unnatural to want the culprit to hurt as much as you're hurting. But this bitterness only affects you. The person who caused it continues on, oblivious to your pain, while you suffer the toxic impact emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Acknowledge your feelings so healing can begin. Signs of bitterness include replaying a situation over and over, fixating on something someone did long ago, keeping score of every offense, real or imagined, and finding yourself annoyed, excuse me, by everything someone does because of your perception of them. Uh, Sorry, I lost my space. Investigate the cause of your bitterness. It could stem from a misunderstanding, a false assumption, or something beyond anyone's control, in which case you can let go of it. If it is justified, try to resolve it. This could involve communication. Does the person even know they're upsetting you with their actions? And again, I feel Spirit pulling me towards this idea that it's you're upset with. It's not even outside of you. And this could be different for everyone, but you're upset with yourself for perhaps allowing yourself to stay in a place, in a space that is not bringing you joy. Don't beat yourself up. You're in this space and time for the learning, and it takes as long as it needs to take. Divine timing is perfect. And the moment you're ready to release it, the divine is there to meet you and take you to the next place. So I'm going to leave that there. It's time to release that poisoned arrow. That's what Spirit's saying. Let go. Let go of the beliefs, the BS that are holding you back. With that, I love you. Thank you for joining me for this message. I hope you have a blessed day. Peace out.